Oh, everybody, the legal world is abuzz today in Atlanta with very good reason. We have received a scathing report about a judge that goes so far as to say this judge broke the law. It's regarding a Fulton County Superior Court judge named Shermella Williams. The short story is this. She is a family division judge, meaning she handles divorces, child custody, things like that. Okay. She has been the recipient of multiple JQC complaints. The JQC is the Judicial Qualifications Commission. They oversee the behavior and the complaints of judges in Georgia. This judge has received many complaints. So earlier this year, there was a hearing. I watched some of the live stream on it. It was wild, where these complaints were presented to a 3-person panel in the JQC. There's the director of the JQC that sort of acts like a prosecutor, even though it's not a criminal proceeding. And then the judge presents her side. She can have a lawyer. And then the panel hears all of this. The panel's job basically is to determine whether there was wrongdoing, and if there was wrongdoing, what they would recommend the punishment to the judge to be. Sometimes there's no punishment. But all of this ends up in a report. And the report that came out is 66 pages long. I read it last night in my bed with the light from my phone because this is just wild. My hair was on fire reading all this. I've never seen anything this scathing before pointed at a judge. So now that this report is out, I do want to let you know it's not over. It now has to go to the Georgia Supreme Court, and the Georgia Supreme Court gets to decide. The JQC's recommendation is that she be removed permanently as a judge. The Georgia Supreme Court gets to make that final determination. So like Judge Williams, as of today, is still a sitting judge, okay? But here's the part I want you all to think about. I'm not gonna go through all the different wrongdoing that has been alleged, but I wanna talk about one particular incident and the findings in this written report. So there was a witness at a divorce hearing. The witness's name was Molly. Molly was, I think, 21 years old. Her parents are getting divorced. During this hearing, when Molly is testifying, the judge doesn't really like the way Molly is behaving. There's some suggestion that part of it is the way she was behaving in the courtroom, but the judge never held her in criminal contempt, never said, you are, contemptuous behavior, you have to stop. She didn't like what she heard about, more like the way Molly was approaching her parents' divorce is what it sounds like. So the judge, and by the way, the judge admits to all of this conduct. That's important. She decided to give Molly a little scared straight, and threw Molly in a holding cell, had a deputy handcuff her and throw her in a holding cell. I think it was up to maybe 45 minutes, which you can imagine. You're already going through this, having to be a witness in your parents' divorce, and this judge out of the clear blue says, you know what, I don't like your behavior. I'm throwing you in a holding cell. And the report even says that she really singled out Molly in the way she was mistreating Molly. She didn't treat any of the other witnesses this way, okay? So again, the judge admits she did this. Here is the report's findings on how this judge behaved by throwing this person into handcuffs and in a holding cell for 45 minutes. They say, quite simply, Judge Williams broke the law. The public will not have confidence in a judge who is unable and unwilling to comply with the law. Let's see. We also find that the judge acted in self-interest and ill will, acted in bad faith, acted in her judicial capacity and in bad faith, and that's going to matter in a second. And then says Judge Williams' actions provide a constitutional basis for discipline on the grounds of willful misconduct in office. Now, to me, the biggest sentence in all of this about Molly is, quote, as for Molly, the outrageousness of Judge Williams' conduct speaks for itself. She broke the law in a way that is inexcusable, okay? I counted, when you're asking, oh, what law did she break? I mean, we know, but this panel cites 4 times in this report describing it as a, quote, illegal arrest and false imprisonment. Big old felony. And I would add, too, that they mentioned throughout the 66 pages about the judge not being entirely credible, and I'm saying that as nicely as I can, in her sworn testimony in front of this panel. All right? Wow. So here's what I want y'all to think about. We have a judge, that's my dog Elvis, sorry. We have a judge who has admitted to this conduct taking someone who has not been convicted of a crime or accused of a crime, not accused of any kind of contempt, and handcuffing her and throwing her in jail. Not denied. We have a 3-person panel in the JQC, one of whom is a judge, describing what this Judge Williams did as an illegal arrest and false imprisonment. Okay. But is anything going to happen to this judge? She's still a sitting judge right now. We have to wait, and I don't know what the timeline is going to be for the Georgia Supreme Court to make a final decision. But let's say they remove her from office, all right? Will this judge ever see any criminal liability for this false imprisonment action? Doubtful, because in her official capacity, she has some immunity. And so even if the district attorney of Fulton County wanted to prosecute her, which I doubt, the judge would immediately make an argument about immunity. I was in my judicial capacity, whether you like it or not, I'm immune from criminal liability. That's what the judges would argue. All right. Now contrast all of what I just said with the Mick Patel case in Cobb County. We have a man who was falsely accused of a crime, did nothing wrong. There's video to prove that he did nothing wrong, but nonetheless arrested by police officers, held in jail for 6 weeks. Prosecutors refused to give him a bond. Even after a judge thankfully gave him a bond, they still pursue prosecution against him until they're forced to realize that they're going to go to trial and get absolutely destroyed at trial, and finally dismiss this case against him. This man had unaliving threats against him. And of course, in any civil lawsuit, we all know that the cities and the counties are going to go, hey, we didn't do anything wrong, and totally deny any kind of civil liability against him. We have a judge who admitted to conduct which has been described by another judge as false imprisonment, who will likely face no criminal liability whatsoever. And we have a man placed in jail receiving unaliving threats, who may never be able to recover for what happened to him. That's a pretty frightening analysis of our judicial system and some of the problems that we have in this world. So I suggest y'all Google Shermella Williams, and you can get into more detail if you want about some of the things she's been accused of doing. I'll update y'all when we have more information from the Supreme Court. As of right now, she is technically still a sitting judge in Fulton County.